welcome. You're watching the World Report. I'm Dishha. Bagchi. Here are the big stories we're tracking today. New Delhi has firmly rejected China's claim of mediating a ceasefire between India and Pakistan during the May military conflict. The Indian government sources clarified that it was Islamabad which requested a truce following Operation Sindoor and that the ceasefire was agreed directly between the two countries. The Director General of Military Operations, India, reiterated its long-standing position that there is no room for third-party intervention in matters with Pakistan. The clarification comes after Beijing echoed US President Donald Trump's earlier assertions, with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi projecting India as China as a peace negotiator. Speaking at a symposium in Beijing, Wang Yi said China had mediated in several global hotspots including northern Myanmar, the Iranian nuclear issue, Cambodia and Thailand, and he claimed the tensions between Pakistan and India.
发展公平、正义、民主、自由的全人类共同价值，致力于在世界上守正道、扬公道、行大道，坚定守护国际道义的底线。我们践行客观公正、标本兼治的中国特色热点问题解决之道，坚持不干涉内政、不拱火浇油、不拉偏架、不谋私利，一秉诚意，斡旋缅北、伊朗和印巴以的矛盾，以及最近的减碳冲突，我们在事关国际道义的大是大非问题上，坚定站在历史正确一边，旗帜鲜明反对霸权主义和强权政治，向遭受不公的国家提供力所能及的道义和行动支持。关税战、贸易战损害各国正当权益，损害多边贸易体制，我们挺身而出，既是为了维护自身的正当权益。
Tracking the latest from Bangladesh, where the mortal remains of former Prime Minister Khaleda Zia were brought to her residence in Gulshan, where family members and relatives paid their last respects to her ahead of her namaz-e-janaza. Meanwhile, just a while back, Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar met BNP acting president and Khaleda Zia's son Tariq Rahman. The Foreign Minister handed over a condolence letter from Prime Minister Modi to Tariq Rahman. Thousands of supporters have flocked to Dhaka to pay their last respects to the late leader. Remember that a state funeral will be held in Dhaka for Khaleda Zia, the former Prime Minister and the first female Prime Minister of Bangladesh, as well as the chairperson of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, who passed away yesterday at the age of 80 after a prolonged illness. The ceremony will take place at the Parliament's South Plaza and the adjoining Manik Mia Avenue, where she is to be laid to rest next to her husband, former Bangladesh President and BNP founder Zia Rahman. Ankit Tyagi brings this report from Bangladesh.
Behind me in heart of Dhaka, Chandrama Udyan, the final resting place of former President of Bangladesh, Zia-ur-Rahman, husband of Khaleda Zia, who passed away. This is also going to be the final resting place for Khaleda Zia, the former Prime Minister, the first woman Prime Minister of Bangladesh. The funeral procession will come here, and right next to her husband's grave, she would also be laid to rest. There are a lot of people, supporters of the BNP, those who have already started gathering right at this very spot. Arrangements also being made. Just opposite to this is the Parliament of Bangladesh, and Tariq Rahman, the son of Khaleda Zia and Zia-ur-Rahman, now, of course, the undisputed leader of the BNP, the party that they founded. And since 1981, that's after his assassination, his mother, Khaleda Zia, has been a very important, prominent figure of that party. This is the final resting place of one of the most important political dynasty, the heads of those political dynasty, as Bangladesh moves towards an important election. Now with Tariq Rahman as the head of the BNP on February 12th. In Dhaka with Momin, Ankit Tyagi.
An era in Bangladeshi politics has come to an end with the death of former Prime Minister Khaleda Zia. The Bangladesh Nationalist Party faces its most defining moment yet. As the country heads towards crucial elections in February, the spotlight now shifts to her son Tariq Rahman, caught between legacy, leadership and the fight for political survival. Take a look at this report.
With the death of Khaleda Zia, an era ends, and a high-stakes battle for legacy, leadership and survival begins inside the Bangladesh Nationalist Party. For decades, Khaleda Zia was more than a former Prime Minister. She was the emotional core of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, a symbol of resistance, rivalry and relentless opposition to the ruling Awami League. As Bangladesh heads towards crucial elections in February, the BNP stands at a crossroads. All eyes are on her son, Tariq Rahman. Long seen as the heir apparent, Rahman now faces the weight of inheritance, not just of a party, but of a political movement built around his mother's name. For the BNP, Khaleda Zia's death may galvanize supporters, transforming grief into political momentum. But it also removes the party's most unifying figure, the leader who could command loyalty across factions and generations. Rahman, who has just returned from a 17-year exile, may now step out of his mother's shadow and convince voters that the BNP's future is not just nostalgia, but a credible alternative. The pressure is immense, but many polls suggest that the BNP will emerge victorious in the elections, with the student-led NCP likely to face an underwhelming result. There's little time for mourning and no room for missteps. Khaleda Zia's chapter has closed. The question now is whether her legacy becomes a launchpad or a burden for those she leaves behind. With Vishal Vivek, Bureau Report, NDTV World.
US Ambassador to NATO Matthew Whitaker has cast doubt on Russia's claim that Ukraine attacked President Vladimir Putin's residence, saying that the incident remains unverified. Whitaker said that it was unclear whether it actually even happened and stressed that he would want to see US intelligence before drawing conclusions. Ukraine, meanwhile, has flatly denied the allegation. Russia claimed on Monday that Ukraine launched 91 long-range drones at the presidential residence in the Novgorod region, warning that it would retaliate and harden its negotiating stance. Kyiv dismissed the accusation as lies meant to justify further Russian attacks, with Ukraine's foreign minister saying Moscow has produced no evidence because there was none. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump said on Monday that Putin raised that alleged attack during a phone call and that he was very angry about it. Take a look at what the US envoy had to say.
NATO allies must meet their obligations. The United States will no longer subsidize nations that refuse to pay their fair share. That is why, if confirmed, I will work to advance a policy of peace through strength by ensuring that all NATO members meet a minimum defense spending level of 5%.
India has officially overtaken Japan to become the world's fourth largest economy, valued at $4.18 trillion US. The government says India is on track to surpass Germany by 2030 with a projected GDP of $7.3 trillion. Real GDP growth hit 8.2% in the second quarter of the financial year 2025-26, marking a six-quarter high. Strong private consumption and resilient domestic demands are driving this momentum. International agencies including the IMF, World Bank, OECD have projected growth between 6.2% and 7.4% over the next 2 years. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian warned that his country would respond sharply to any act of aggression following a renewed threat from US President Donald Trump. He made the statement on social media platform X following comments by US President Trump on Monday, who threatened Iran with a military strike if it resumed nuclear weapons programs. UAE announced on Tuesday it would be pulling its remaining forces out of Yemen. The move comes after Saudi Arabia backed a call for UAE forces to leave within 24 hours, deepening a crisis between the two Gulf powers and oil producers. Hours earlier, Saudi-led coalition forces had attacked the southern Yemeni port of Mukalla. The airstrike on what Riyadh said was a UAE-linked weapons shipment was the most significant escalation to date in the widening rift between the two Gulf monarchies. In Washington, US State Secretary Marco Rubio spoke with Saudi and UAE foreign ministers about the tensions in Yemen as well as other issues. Several Gulf countries, including Kuwait and Bahrain, said that they would support any efforts to bolster dialogue and reach a political solution. In Germany, thieves stole tens of millions of euros worth of property from safety deposit boxes inside German bank vault that they drilled into during the holiday lull. According to the police, some 2,700 bank customers were affected by the theft. Police said that investigators believe that the theft was worth between 10 to 90 million euros. German news agencies reported that the theft could be one of Germany's largest heists. Witnesses, meanwhile, told investigators that they saw several men carrying large bags in a nearby parking garage over the weekend. Listen in to what the police had to say.
Wir haben mittlerweile Zeugenaussagen bekommen und auch Hinweise auf ein Täterfahrzeug. Die sind videografiert worden. Dabei handelt es sich um einen schwarzen Audi A6. Audi RS6, Entschuldigung, der wohl geflohen sein soll aus der betroffenen Tiefgarage. Und dementsprechend gehen die Ermittlungen hinsichtlich dieses Fahrzeugs. In diesem Fahrzeug haben mehrere Personen gesessen, die auch maskiert sind.
Peace is on the horizon. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk told a cabinet meeting on Tuesday. Tusk made the comment following a virtual meeting with world leaders to assess the latest step towards peace between Russia and Ukraine. Leaders from Europe and Canada held talks on US-led peace efforts to end the nearly 4-year-long conflict. The virtual meeting, including European leaders as well as the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, heads of European institutions and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, listened in to what the Polish Prime Minister had to say.
Oceniliśmy rezultat tego pierwszego etapu tych bardzo serio już negocjacji, w które zaangażowali się i liderzy Ukrainy, Europy i Stanów Zjednoczonych oraz Kanady. Pokój jest na horyzoncie. Nie ulega wątpliwości, że zdarzyły się rzeczy, które są podstawą do nadziei, że ta wojna może się zakończyć i to dość szybko. Ale to jest ciągle nadzieja, ciągle daleko od 100% pewności. Bo kiedy mówię, że pokój jest na horyzoncie, to mówię o najbliższych tygodniach, a nie najbliższych miesiącach czy latach.
Two trains heading to Peru's Machu Picchu archaeological area collided Tuesday, leaving one person dead and 30 injured. Peru's national police said that the deceased was the driver of one of the trains who worked for the Inca Rail. Among the injured were Peruvian as well as international tourists. The chief of Peru's national police said that one of the injured is in serious condition and that they're investigating the cause of the accident.
Aparentemente, hasta por información preliminar, sabemos que habría ocurrido un choque de trenes a la altura de Córdoba, China. Están informando de que hay 15 heridos y uno de ellos reviste algo de gravedad. En todo caso, está en pleno proceso y ya vamos a disponer que vaya la policía especializada para determinar las circunstancias y los grados de responsabilidades que habría ocurrido producto de este choque.
In Bolivia, miners clashed with police on Tuesday, throwing dynamite and firecrackers on the 8th day of street protests in La Paz. The protest was against the elimination of fuel subsidies decreed by centre-right President Rodrigo Paz, which led to a rise in gasoline prices. Police cracked down on the protests with tear gas and rubber bullets against hundreds of demonstrators who detonated small dynamite charges. The protesters sought to break through the police cordon to enter the central square where Bolivia's government and legislative buildings were located.
Repetir más, no escucho, por eso hemos salido. Nosotros somos al menos humildes, respetuosos. Somos respetuosos, nosotros no somos. Si no escucha ahí sí, una segunda, tercera, ¿qué nos toca? Salir a las calles. ¿Qué nos toca de eso? Si no nos salir a las calles.
Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed met with Turkey's President Erdogan on Tuesday. Mohammed's visit to Istanbul comes days after Israel's recognition of the breakaway region of Somaliland. The move was condemned by more than 20 countries as an attack on the East African nation's sovereignty. Turkish officials said that the talks between the pair of leaders were set to focus on new steps to deepen cooperation between the two countries. The talks also focused on Somalia's ongoing fight against terrorism, efforts to strengthen national unity, and other regional developments.
We also extend our thanks to our partner countries, as well as regional and international institutions, for taking a firm stand against the violation committed by the State of Israel on 26 December this year. In our discussion today, we strongly rejected Prime Minister Netanyahu's illegal aggression.
US and Ivorian officials signed a bilateral agreement on Tuesday to strengthen Ivory Coast's health system. The $487 million agreement includes funding for disease detection systems and health capacities to combat HIV/AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis. Part of the funds will also be used to improve the country's preparedness for the epidemics by integrating US programs into the Ivory Coast national health systems, officials have said. Here, take a look at these reactions.
Ce protocole d'accord bilatéral s'inscrit dans le cadre de la mise en œuvre de la nouvelle stratégie mondiale de santé des États-Unis, America First, qui notamment encourage les pays à mettre l'accent sur la mobilisation des ressources domestiques pour faire face aux priorités en matière de santé.
Aujourd'hui, nous sommes dans un autre accord où nous orientons vers nos priorités, les priorités nationales, où l'État progressivement prend le relais donc, des financements que nous recevons. Et ça nous permet de mieux intégrer les appuis que nous recevons à notre système de santé.
Hundreds of prisoners of war from allied countries were held at brutal Japanese camps in Nagasaki when the US dropped an atomic bomb 80 years ago. Their presence during the August 9, 1945 bombing is little known, and family and researchers have been publishing testimonies to tell the stories of these victims. In September, dozens of relatives of Dutch prisoners of war and descendants of Japanese bombing survivors came together. They were commemorated, and they commemorated both those who were abused at the camps and tens of thousands of Japanese who were killed on that tragic day.
My father was here. He told me, I think that's important, about Japanese people. He said the civilian people, so we had to work in the shipyard, the civilian people, they were very friendly and they wanted to help the prisoners of war. And just the military police, they were not very nice, to say it very nicely. so that's and you could talk about it because many people, POWs, they could not talk about the things that happened to them.
According to officials, 3 people died in an avalanche in the Spanish Pyrenees. The group of 6 mountaineers was ski trekking on the northern face of the Pico Tablato mountain in Spain where the avalanche occurred. A rescue team, including sniffer dogs, were deployed to the area to help search for the missing. The Colombian city of Cartagena began replacing its iconic horse buggies with electric carriages. The move comes after years of protests by animal rights activists who argued that horses pulling coaches for tourists suffered from exploitation and poor health. The mayor introduced a new fleet of 30 vehicles with large wheels and open tops that resemble the city's traditional horse carriages. The new vehicles are powered by batteries and have steering wheels for their drivers instead of reins and yokes. Time for a short break. More news and updates on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching the World Report. On to stories from the world of business and tech. Elon Musk said on Tuesday his artificial intelligence startup xAI has bought a third building to expand its infrastructure. The move aims to boost training capacity to nearly 2 gigawatts of compute power. The latest expansion underscores xAI's ambitious push to compete more effectively with industry leaders OpenAI's ChatGPT and Claude by training advanced models. The company's supercomputer cluster in Memphis, Tennessee, known as Colossus, is touted as the largest in the world. Meanwhile, in Poland, Poland has asked the European Commission to investigate TikTok after the social media platform hosted artificial intelligence-generated content. This includes calls for Poland to withdraw from the EU, adding that the content was almost certainly Russian disinformation. A TikTok profile showing videos of young women dressed in Polish national colors and calling for Poland to leave the EU has gained popularity in recent weeks. The profile has now disappeared from the platform. Now on to the world of sports. Former cricketer Damien Martyn, who played 67 test matches for Australia, is in serious condition in Brisbane Hospital, Australian media has reported on Wednesday. The 54-year-old former right-hand batter had fallen ill in recent days, with 9 newspapers reporting that he is in an induced coma and fighting a bout of meningitis. His former test teammate, Darren Lemon, wrote on social media, and I quote, "Lots of love and prayers, sending it to Damien Martyn way. Keep strong and keep fighting, legend. Love to the family." Martyn played 208 one-day internationals, averaging 40.8. He was part of Australia's squad that won the 1999 and 2003 World Cup, scoring an unbeaten 88 in the final against India in 2003 while batting with a broken finger. Magnus Carlsen's domination of chess showed no sign of weakness when the world number 1 won the Blitz World Championship title for the 9th time. The Norwegian beat Uzbek Grandmaster in the final in Doha to secure his 5th rapid Blitz double. Carlsen, who relinquished his regular World Chess Champion title, citing a lack of motivation after winning it in 2013, 2014, 16, 18 and 21. In the world of entertainment, Isaiah Whitlock Jr., an actor who made frequent memorable appearances on the HBO series The Wire and Veep, died on Tuesday. He was 71. Whitlock's manager Brian Liebman told media that the actor died in New York after a short illness. Whitlock played openly corrupt state senator Clay Davis on 25 episodes across the 5 seasons of The Wire. Whitlock is the second significant star of The Wire to die in recent weeks after the death of actor James Ransone. Ryan Seacrest is back for his 21st year of ringing in the new year with Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve. Seacrest and second-time co-host Rita Ora will take over New York's Times Square for a record 8-hour show that will expand across the country. To honor the United States of America's 250th birthday in 2026, red, white and blue confetti will drop onto the crowds in Times Square. Diana Ross, Kiara, Little Big Town and Maren Morris will perform live in New York. Chance the Rapper will also host a live countdown from Chicago and will perform.
Well, this is a record-breaking show for us in terms of its length and the number of performers and songs. We have 42 performers, over 90 songs will be performed, and it's fitting with the big 250th coming up.
Thanks for watching this edition of The World Report. Wishing you all a Happy New Year from NDTV.